Nice to meet you guys. My name is Darius. This video I'm going to be going over and kind of explaining some skills and responsibilities of what it's like to be an IT specialist. So first off, what is an IT specialist? An IT specialist, as far as I define it, is someone who works in the field of technology, be that hardware or software. You're going to be responsible for, if this is a business environment, you're going to be responsible for keeping the computers running, managing the network in the building, in the office. Kind of depends what your specific role is. But yeah, you're basically just going to be managing the infrastructure and the technology or the technology infrastructure of your business or whatever company, what have you. So some things that you're going to be responsible for are going to be, or some of your daily responsibilities, I should say, are going to be troubleshooting, problem solving. And another thing I think is important is going to be having a lot of patience and being able to educate your staff, because a lot of what you're going to be doing day to day in IT is correcting user error and telling them not to screw stuff up, basically. One of the things that we're supposed to go over on this is kind of how to connect PC components. So I'm just going to give a brief rundown on how to build a PC. You're going to have multiple different pieces of hardware. Basically what is necessary for a functional system. Basically the bare minimums. A case. Technically that's not required, but usually nice to have a case, not just have everything lying around. So case, power supply system, motherboard, CPU. You can have dedicated graphics, or you can have an integrated graphics, which is basically just your graphics card is your CPU and they're kind of just combined together. And you just put that on the motherboard. You need to have RAM, system storage, a CPU cooler. If you're going with the case, obviously you're gonna need, or I guess you don't have to, these aren't required, but a case fan would also be nice. Let me see if there's anything I'm missing. Aside from that, obviously like keyboard, mouse, monitor. And yeah, so essentially how you would put those together, where you start by, you get your case, take it out the box, you're going to get your motherboard, get the standoffs plugged in, or screw the standoffs into the where the motherboard's going to go in the case. Screw the motherboard in. Then you're going to install the CPU. However, that is, if it's AMD versus Intel, they have a different system of putting the components together. But you're going to install the CPU, install the RAM. You're going to put the power supply in the case. You're not going to connect the actual power cables until all the other parts are done. Yeah, you're gonna install the CPU cooler. Now, one thing that I like to do is before putting the motherboard into the case, I'll just go ahead and install the RAM, CPU cooler all in one shot, and then put it in the case, just so you don't have to deal with trying to work inside of a small area. You can just put everything on the motherboard and then put it in one shot. If you have dedicated graphics, you would put the graphics card in after the case is installed, because after the motherboard is installed. And yeah, basically after you get the motherboard, CPU, cooler, RAM installed into the case, you put the graphics card in, then I'll probably put the system storage on there as well. Now, if it's an M.2, you would install that directly on the motherboard, so you do that on the earlier step. But if it's like a hard drive or an SSD, like a 2.5-inch SSD, put that on the case first. You're gonna use a SATA cable to connect your storage to the motherboard. And then after that, you basically just get all the power supply cables, the 24-pin, for the motherboard, 8-pin for the CPU, 6-pin for the graphics card, depending on what kind of graphics card you have. The newer ones use a lot more power. and then SATA power for your drives. This is also the point where you connect all the case cables as well to your motherboard. So you're going to do the like hard drive light, front case I/O. If yours has those, mine actually doesn't. It just has a power button. So that's really the main thing. Just make sure that the power switch is connected to the motherboard. After all that stuff, you're pretty much done. I would clean it up, obviously, make sure all the cables are nice and tidy. And then the main thing that some people forget is to flip the power supply switch on the back of the computer on, and then you can hit the power button on the front of the computer and it'll, boot and everything. Also make sure that if you have dedicated graphics and you're plugging into a motherboard and you're plugging into a monitor, that the monitor is plugged into the graphics card and not the motherboard. I tried plugging into the motherboard one time and I thought my whole thing was broken. It wasn't. I just had it plugged into the motherboard and not the graphics card. How to troubleshoot hardware. So if you hit the power button and something doesn't happen, the first thing I would check is see if the fans and all the lights on the computer are turning on, and the monitor's just blank. That would tell you that you've got some issues with, wouldn't really tell you that much. It would just tell you that everything is getting powered. So at least you can kind of rely on the power supply for the most part. Now on most motherboards, there's going to be a little panel of lights, and you can look up online to see what those lights mean, because that's kind of a built-in diagnostic tool. Aside from that, if you can't figure it out, you just start taking pieces off, replacing them. If you have like an actual board, a second motherboard is always nice to have. I personally have like a whole separate like motherboard, RAM, CPU, and power supply sitting in a closet if I need to test anything. Because if you know that this whole system works, you can take a piece from system A, put it on system B. If system B used to work and you put a component from system A onto system B and it stops working, that kind of tells you which part that is. I would also just make sure that all the connectors are all the way in. Sometimes, especially with the RAM, it could look like it's all the way in, but if you didn't push it all the way in, hear it click, it's not going to post, or it might be running off of single channel DDR instead of dual channel, and that's also not going to be very stable of a system. Now, how to connect a computer to a network. Super easy. Take an Ethernet cable, plug it inside A, take the other side, or take the Ethernet cable, plug it into the wall, other Ethernet cable, plug it into the PC. 9 times out of 10, all you gotta do is just go on the PC settings and type in the network passcode, but if that doesn't work, you might have to, configure the network and all that stuff. And how to do that would depend on how your network is configured, so can't really say exactly how to do that. It's kind of up in the air. Connecting to, so that would be a hard, like, physical connection. Exactly what it say. Yeah, sorry, that would be a wired connection. Wireless connection, obviously, like it sounds, it's gonna be a wireless connection. Now you need to make sure that your motherboard is capable of doing a wireless connection, because not all of them will. Some motherboards are going to be only single band, some will be dual band, some don't have a Wi-Fi chip at all, so they will have to be wired. Just depends on what kind of hardware that you have. But obviously, assume that you have the capability to do a wired connection. You would want to go to your network settings, find the network, hit join, type in the password. Obviously, that's the simplest way, but there might be more network configuration required. Kind of depends on how all this fits together with your IT role. Really just depends on what kind of IT role that you're doing specifically. IT just means information technology, so pretty much anything that deals with technology or information even, it doesn't even have to technically be technology, will fall into the realm of IT. So you could work at a phone store. You'll have to know how to transfer files from phone to phone. You'll have to know how to troubleshoot network errors. So troubleshooting and also educating your customers is gonna be a big part there. You could also work in, back at a data center, and you're gonna need to have a lot more networking knowledge. You're gonna have to know how to work with the switch ports. You're gonna have to figure out how to troubleshoot upstream versus downstream. But yeah, this is just A+ is a kind of lower level IT. It's kind of just like the base level, the base knowledge. So really the things that you're gonna need to know is like just simple definitions, hardware versus software, wired connections, wireless. I would definitely recommend just building a PC if you never have. You can literally go on Facebook Marketplace and find someone's like $30 HP and just take it apart, or make sure it works first. Then you take it apart, and then you put it back together, and if it still works, then you know that you don't suck at IT. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I have for you guys. I'm doing this super late, so I hope someone watches my video and not just this professor. But if it's just a professor, hi, how you doing? Hope I get an A.